Good evening, very warm welcome to the West Yorkshire Football Show and our usual Monday night roundup. I'm Chris Bell. I'm delighted to say I'm joined from the stars at least by Gareth Walker and Stephen Downes. How are we both, gents? Are we well?
Not too bad, mate. Thank you very much. How are you?
Yes, not too bad, Downesy. I mean, it was a busy day for us on the stream yesterday. Obviously, 2 Huddersfield Town streams over the course of the day in relation to Michael Duff going. How are you feeling, just over 24 hours on?
Sick of seeing your face, Chris, but apart from that, I'm joking.
Oh, well, darling. I mean, we can soon solve that problem.
No, I think, it's just been a weird Monday, and it really, with what's been said, there's been a lot said between now and, then and now, and yeah, it's some interesting discussions went on another broadcasting channel this evening, and there were more interesting discussions from there. So yeah, it's been good.
It's going to be something that's going to rumble on for a while, but we will come to that again a little bit later on. We're not going to go into the depth that we did yesterday, otherwise we will be here again until midnight. But we are going to start with Bradford City and Gaz. I haven't had to say this too often recently. A disappointing weekend for the Bantams.
Yeah, someone put on Twitter, and I think I put it, and then I saw someone else had already put it. It's not very nice losing, is it? We haven't done it for a while. That was I think that was our second loss in 17. I think it was one of those games. Our record at Gillingham isn't great. We never seem to do very well at Gillingham, although over the last few years we have done a little bit better. So it was a little bit of trepidation going there anyway. And John Coleman, as we know, can be very sort of good at the, shall we say, the physical side of things and the dark arts. And yeah, it was a little bit of a worry. I think they hadn't won in 14 prior to the weekend before, and then they won the weekend before, and we were like, oh, well, at least they're not going to end that run against us. But yeah, they still turned us over. Like I said, we looked tired. We lost the physical battle. Too many players, just losing their individual battles, and lost to sort of the physicality and the dark arts. At times, there were just 4 or 5 Gillingham players going down all over the pitch at the same time just to slow things down, and we just didn't get any momentum going. And I would be, to be honest with you, they look more likely to have scored a second goal than we did to equalise, to be honest with you. There were a couple of chances. I mean, Graham Alexander said in his post-match interview that he thought we had the better of the chances. I think that's debatable. We did have a couple of good ones. Tommy Lee should have scored in the first half. And I would argue that if Callum Kavanagh or Michael Mellon had had that chance, they probably would have scored. Tommy Lee's dividing opinion at City at the moment, very much. Tyreek Wright had a shot saved in the second half when he came on as a sub. Tommy Lee had another one that he tried to lob the keeper with from outside the box that dropped onto the roof of the net. But yeah, we were just off it, really. And it was disappointing because I had been worried, having lost Point and Patterson and Sarcevic all at the same time to injury. That's a huge hole in our team. There are 3 most creative players, and they're all out at the moment. But then on Tuesday night previous at home to Cheltenham, Jamie Walker, George Lapsley had come in, and they've been absolutely fantastic. And we put in arguably one of our best performances of the season in beating Cheltenham 3-0. So it kind of dispelled the fears, really. And we went to Gillingham thinking, oh, well, we can cope without those players. So it was a little bit of a crash back down to earth and a very disappointing result. Like you say, Chris, we've not had many of them lately. So now it's really going to be about whether we can bounce back because, like I say, it was a second loss in 17. I don't think those 3 midfielders, Point and Patterson and Sarcevic, will be back for Tranmere. So we need to bounce back and show that we are capable of overcoming that adversity of a loss, really.
And it's one of those where it was just bloody typical that City had to go and lose that game when Walsall had been beaten comfortably at home by Grimsby as well, meaning that had City have won, you would have gone top of the table. And it's just typical that you weren't able to. The one, I say this superb run that City have been on, it's so bloody City to then get handed that opportunity from Walsall losing in an early kickoff and City not able to capitalise on it.
Yeah, Walsall are really wobbling out. They've been wobbling for a while. I think the lead's gone from like 14 points down to 2. I was on the radio with Jamie Rayner on Friday night, and we discussed about City going top of the league. And I said that I'm not bothered about winning the league. It's been so rare for us to have an automatic promotion in my 30 years of following City that I would just love an automatic promotion. But there is also the element of it that if you win the league, your team sort of goes down in folklore, really, as you're champions. And I think we've only been champions of a division once in the last 40 years, or probably more, and that was in 1985. So when obviously disaster struck after they paraded the trophy. So it would have been a big thing. There's also the element that I think once you're top, you become a bit of a target. So sometimes, in a way, especially at this stage of the season, obviously nothing matters until the season finishes after 46 games. So at this stage of the season, is it better to be chasing rather than chased? I think there's an element of that. I think Walsall have felt the pressure through being top. Maybe we felt the pressure through the opportunity to go top. But I've liked the way Graham Alexander's talked over the last week. He was top. I think Sam Shepherd described it as we had 11 cup finals left. And Graham Alexander was asked about that and said, I'm going to have a word with him because it's not 11 cup finals. It's not win or bust in each game, which a cup final is. There's going to be twists and turns in these 11 games. And I think that was a really good way of talking because that takes the pressure off. I'd not thought about that before. And I think it takes the pressure off when you realise it's not win or bust. Teams are going to pick up points and drop points and lose games and draw games in this run. And there's still 5 or 6 teams going for 3 automatic promotion places. So there's a long way to go. Like I said, we just need to bounce back on Saturday against Tranmere.
Yeah, I mean, as it comes to Saturday, Walsall would have already played 2 days previously. I think it is. They play Thursday night away at Bromley. We know Bromley isn't any particularly easy place to go to. They themselves have kind of had a real strong second half of the season that's seen them move from kind of a few places above the relegation zone to now being just 5 points off the playoffs. So we might be looking at next weekend, to be fair, and it's back in the exact same situation where there's every chance that Bromley can go and get a result or a win against Walsall on Thursday, and it opens the door again for City come Saturday. As you say, the fact that it is a home game against Tranmere Rovers, Tranmere are struggling to say the least. Look, I'm going to get carried away because you can't. There's a chance to go and get that top spot next weekend, the way it could go.
Yeah, Bromley's a tough place to go for Walsall. It felt like a significant win when we won down there the other week. Felt like a really significant, hard-fought victory. And then I think the week after, on the Tuesday night, they beat Doncaster. So it is a tough place for people to go. Tranmere, looking at Tranmere, unbeaten since they sacked Nigel Adkins. I think they've won 1 and drawn 2 in those 3 games. Yeah. Andy Crosby's been confirmed that he will stay in charge until the end of the season now. So there will be a different prospect to what they would have been 3-4 weeks ago. The game after that as well is another home game, which is at home to Colchester, who are on a frightening run at the moment as well, and also targeting the playoffs. So this game will be no gimmies. Our home record is fantastic. We've lost 1 all season at home. We're unbeaten in 10, which is a club record. But they're going to be no gimmies. I just saw you flash the comment up there from Paul. There is an argument that he got it wrong on Saturday, but I think he was limited in what he could do. I don't think, obviously, Patterson, Point and Sarcevic weren't fit, so it was always going to be Lapsley and Walker as the 2 attacking midfielders. People will talk about him playing Tommy Lee up front. He was asked about that after the game, and he basically said that he didn't think that Michael Mellon or Callum Kavanagh were fit enough to start the game. Michael Mellon, he said, had so little football over the last year, and he played 2 games back-to-back, Salford and Cheltenham, and he cramped up during the Cheltenham game. So he didn't want to risk starting him again on Saturday because he couldn't afford to lose another attacking player, given all the players that we have out.
Yeah.
He kind of explained that away as to why he'd played Tommy Lee up front. But, yeah, in an ideal world, Callum Kavanagh or Tommy Lee would have started. But also in an ideal world, Patterson, Poynton and Sarcevic wouldn't be injured. So I think he did explain why he had to do that. And like I said, Tranmere and Colchester will be a lot tougher asks than they would have been 6 months ago or even a couple of weeks ago in Tranmere's case.
Yeah, I mean, Colchester, I trying not to. I'm just going to see with a big smiley face. It's what the Cowleys do, isn't it? They're on a really good run of form for Colchester, and I'm just looking at the grimace on Downsy's face when I mentioned that. It's funny. I said on deadline day that Colchester could be the dark horse that may make the playoffs. Now, admittedly, there's still a long way to go before that can happen, but they've got a game in hand over the side that are seventh, which I think is Port Vale, Crewe. Sorry. So there's an opportunity for them to close that gap before the weekend as well, because they've got a game against Port Vale, on Tuesday night. Your kind of final thoughts then about Saturday in this Tranmere game? How are you feeling for it? Yeah, I mean, obviously, as you say, it's not going to be as easy as it perhaps might have been under Adkins. They've turned a little bit of a corner, but the Valley Parade magic, I'm going to say this time around. And again, you don't usually get to say that too often about Valley Parade. It's usually split, but everyone seems, in some of the home games, the performances are there, the results are there, and arguably most importantly for City, the atmosphere and the fans are there together.
It does feel like that at the moment. As we keep saying, and I think I say it on every pod, that at Bradford City you're always 2 defeats away from a crisis. But we just need to try and obviously we've broken the record now. We're 10 home games in a row that we've won. This would extend it to 11. If there were elements of tiredness on Saturday, given that we were on the back of, I think we played 6 consecutive midweek games. We had a lot of injuries. We'd had the long journey to Gillingham. If there were elements of that, they shouldn't play a part on Saturday, because we've had a full week off for the first time in ages. So the players should be rested up and ready. Hopefully there might be a couple more of the injured players back available. I'm not sure that Sarcevic, Poynton and Walker will be, but that's my personal opinion. Wright and Tariq Wright, Callum Johnson were on the bench on Saturday and both came on. I believe Kieran Kelly's not far away, but they are not going to help us in those attacking areas. So it might be, as you were for Saturday in attacking areas, the players need to put the performance on that they did against Cheltenham rather than the one that they did against Gillingham, and prove, like I say, that we can be resilient and we can bounce back from a defeat, and it's not going to derail us in this charge for automatic promotion.
And looking just a smidge further ahead to that Colchester game, I think you mentioned the other day, the Colchester game is £5 a ticket.
Yeah, the club have announced, I think they've been asked by a fans group, or some fans had asked if they could do one of these £5 a ticket offers. I think Paul's come in with that comment as well, hasn't he? I did mention it to you, Chris, in the group chat. Obviously, anybody who's free and available to go a week on Saturday, you'll get into Valley Parade for a £5. They're just trying to build on the good feeling around the club at the moment, the way the fans are bouncing off the players are bouncing off the fans. Obviously, we don't want to lose on Saturday before that game, because it might put a few people off. I would also imagine, I think you asked, didn't you, Chris, if it would be the same in the away end. I would imagine it will be, because I think Football League rules say that they have to, don't they? They do it for home fans, they have to do it for away fans as well. So it will be a £5 to get in a week on Saturday. Hopefully, we're heading into that game against Colchester on the back of a win against Tranmere.
Yeah, I'll be honest, mate. If I come along to that one, I'm going to have such split loyalty between how well City are doing, but my love for the Cowley brothers from what they did at Lincoln.
Boo!
I was expecting that from Downsley, mate, not you. From Downsley.
They've taken a while to get going at Colchester, with all due respect, Chris. Yeah. It wasn't a quick thing, was it?
No. It took them the first half of the season to kind of get things gelling. But to be fair to what they did last season by taking over mid-season, they don't generally do, or hadn't previously done that often prior to joining Lincoln. And you're right, it has taken them a little bit of time to kind of gel things together this season, but it's not how you start a season, is it? It's not how you start a season, it's how you finish it.
I think they'll be push out for those playoffs. I think they will. I think Swindon could be dark horses as well. The run that they're on. So yeah, hopefully, like I said, we're looking at the autos and we can bounce back and keep going for the autos. I don't really want to drop back into that playoff picture, because obviously it's normally the teams that drop back that struggle, and it's the teams that are coming on strong towards the end of the season that do well in the playoffs. So fingers crossed we bounce back Saturday.
Absolutely. Let's turn our attentions then to Huddersfield Town, and from speaking about one set of Huddersfield management that achieved their objectives at the club, to Michael Duff, who has failed to achieve his objectives at the club. And obviously, as we talked a lot about yesterday, Steve, Duff's departure was, well, it seems to be a surprise to some and absolutely needed to happen to the rest, sort of thing. Obviously, we did a Twitter poll over the course of yesterday, and 55% of the ones that voted thought that it was the wrong decision to part with Michael Duff. Obviously, you, I think, were also within that camp compared to Kane and Cal, certainly when we were on the show last night. As I said before, how are you kind of assessing the situation 24 hours on?
Yeah, I think most polls being put out by different people are coming to the sort of conclusion that our split on our poll represents the same across the board with other polls, really. So you could slightly say more people are disappointed that Duff's gone. We went into it in great depth over the two podcasts that we did yesterday. Why he's gone and the reasons I think that are behind it. And I think some of them are harsh. The fact that he's had all these injuries to contend with, the fact that Helik's been sold when he shouldn't really have been sold, that's obviously, come to fruition now. And, the fact that we've dropped to 7th, I still maintain the opinion that I think if we'd have been 6th on Saturday after the final whistle, we wouldn't have been sat here with Michael Duff not being our manager. But we dropped to 7th and therefore he's been sacked because, Kevin Nagel said, you can't boo a manager while you're in the playoffs. Well, we're not in the playoffs anymore. So he's decided to release him of his duties.
It's a very simple approach to kind of look at it like that. And one of the things that we talked about yesterday, especially myself and Lou, with kind of the longevity of a situation in terms of not necessarily chopping and changing managers when the heat is on like this. And Gaz, like just before we started, you said that you and Downsy were chatting about exactly what I was thinking to talk to you both about now, so we'll do it. And that is obviously, there's parallels that can be drawn between Alexander, I think, at Bradford and Duff at Town. Because if you think back to the back end of last season, the cries were there for Alexander to go, or from large section of the city support. The club stuck with him, gave him the summer to build, and look at where you are now. With obviously for Town, Michael Duff's had 2 windows. He's struggled to get players out. It seems in terms of ridding that squad of the kind of hangover from last season's relegation. And now, they've parted company with the manager, which is, as I say, split the fan base. I mean, what's from a City perspective, and from your perspective, looking at the parallels between the two situations that you've seen at your own club and now just up the road at Huddersfield, what do you make of it?
Mate, there were calls for Alexander to go earlier this season. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
It's like I said in the City segment at Bradford. You're 2 results away from a crisis at all times. But me and Downsy, you're right. We were talking just before we went live, and I said it feels like Town. Obviously, they've got more money than Bradford City. They've got richer owners than Bradford City. But it feels like they're going down the Bradford City route of just sacking a manager when things go wrong, and that just doesn't work. It really doesn't work. And I've shouted about this so much with Bradford City that you just cannot keep going through manager after manager after manager. Surely you've got to realise at some point that the manager isn't the problem. The issues are bigger and they lie elsewhere or they lie behind the scenes. I know Downsy, we talked about this before we came on live as well. He's spoken a lot about recruitment and Matt Cartwright and other things that go on behind the scenes at Town. Again, that has parallels to Bradford City, although we don't have the same number of people behind the scenes that Town probably have. We have talked about the issues lying with Ryan Sparks and no football knowledge being behind the scenes. And woe and behold, we've gone and got David Sharp in this season, and it is very early days. Let's not make one swallow doesn't make a summer, but there are City fans saying that this turnaround on the field is because we've finally got someone behind the scenes who knows what they're doing. Now, obviously, there might be people behind the scenes at Town that know what they're doing, but the parallel there is that the issue isn't with the manager. The issue is with somebody else behind the scenes. And finally, our manager is being given a chance because we've got someone in behind the scenes to rectify things that were wrong there. I just feel that, I thought it for a while, to be honest, and I think me and Downsy have agreed. It really, really should. there's so many parallels between the two clubs, and I just can see. Yeah, you're sacking managers, which is what we do, and it just doesn't work. At some point, you've got to look at it and say the issue is elsewhere. I wouldn't have sacked Duff. I said that. I think when I was viewing your pod the other day, yesterday, I said it in the group chat to you guys. Yeah. When you're in and around the playoffs, you've just got to allow a manager to have time to build. It's in his first season. Yes, it might be slightly disappointing, but when you're still in with a shout at the playoffs, for me, you don't sack him. You give him time to change other things that can be sort of change as much as can be changed and get it how he wants it to be. And you look at other issues that can help him behind the scenes. That's just my opinion. Obviously, other football fans, other town fans might have other opinions, but I think me and Downes are on the same page.
Steve?
The problem, Gaz, everything that Gaz has said is right. But, the thing is, there's no, like at City for a long time, there's no semblance of any plan. There's no forward-thinking thought. There's no, right, we're going to stick with a manager. This is what we're going to do. But it's also recognising when that manager's not doing a good job. So, for instance, they hung on to Darren Moore far too long. They let him have 20 games. And from about 6 games in, I said, and I did say on the podcast, he wasn't the right man for the job. You could tell that because he had no emotional connection to the football club. He didn't even try with the supporters. I will give Duff that. He does come across, in a lot of his interviews, when we haven't played well, he said we haven't played well and the players need to do better.
I think he came across well and honest as well.
Yeah, I did, and that's why I like him, and that's why I'm sad it's not turned out to be the thing that we all hoped for. Because I thought, hey, we've got a manager at least now, that does see a lot how the fans see it. He calls a spade a spade. He says that we didn't play well at Northampton. He understands that we didn't play well against Bristol Rovers, and he hasn't been helped by circumstance, by injuries. You go on and we say about Mark Cartwright. I think, I've made my views pretty plain over the last 2 podcasts that I don't think, I think he's part of the issue, and I think he's for a lot of supporters. But I think it is the other part of the problem is, and I've said this before, this squad needs breaking up, totally and utterly needs demolishing, and it needs starting again through a brand new director of football who's got some idea of how to build a proper squad in this division. And that's the most frustrating element. And listen, we're going to all get behind Worthy for 10 games. The season's not dead. We still might make it in the playoffs. Bless Worthy, he might win the bloody thing. And you know what I mean? He becomes an even more town of a legend. And I hope that happens for everybody connected with the football club. But what scares me to death is that if Worthy wins the playoffs, the plan just gets non-plan gets kicked down the road, and we get to next summer, this summer, and they don't know what they're going to do. And then you enter the championship, and it's like a mouse going up against a lion. You just going to get eaten, spat out, and back down to League One, and you're back in the same mess than what you were before. So, how do I reflect on it 24 hours later? I still think it's the wrong decision. I still disagree with the reasons for the decision. And it just scares me that we've had 4 managers in 18 months, and every single one of the managers, they've come out and said he's their man. And then with whether it's Neil Warnock in 7 games, Darren Moore after 20 games, Brian Wright after 11 games or whatever he had at the end of the season, and now Duff after 7 months, with 10 games left of the season, he's been sacked again. It's unbelievably frustrating. A lot of the good work off the pitch is more to do with the stadium, the fan engagement, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Nobody can question Kevin Nagle on that, because that has certainly improved. The thing that's not improved and got worse and worse each season, particularly from last season to this season, is the football side of things. And ultimately, the reason we all watch football is because of the football side of things. And some of these players need to wake up and actually realise that, you know, they might not end up going back up because of their form this season. You know, I can't legislate for, you know, like Matt Lennon said on the podcast on the BBC earlier tonight on the show. You know, he said that the work that the ball was going to get up to the 6-yard box was all great, and it was dull, but it was great, and it got there. It was the fact that, you know, Sorensen missed an open goal header. You know, Dion Charles is one-on-one with the keeper in the game the other night. Absolutely blasts it over the crossbar by about 1 million miles. You know, Duff can't do anything about that. He's not on the he's not on the field to score the goals. He's not on the pitch on Saturday to stop Brodie Spencer kicking the ball over his head in what is a mad decision. You know, which leads to then a goal. It's I still disagree with it. It's the first manager in, take Warnock out of the equation. It's the first manager since Corberan, so that's 4, that I don't see any plan and improvement with, or some responsibility, because Duff did take responsibility. That's what I will give him.
Gaz?
Just a quick one from me. When Worthington was in charge last time, you did reasonably well, didn't you, Downsy? Was that... There's nothing to say, like you've just talked about there. If he has the same impact that he had when he was in temporary charge last time, there is nothing to say that you won't make the playoffs and possibly win them and end up back in the championship. That is foreseeable based on what he did last time. If that happened, is there any chance that he would take the job longer term, do you think?
No, because he didn't want the job last time.
And so he still wouldn't want it, even if he took you up?
Well, I wouldn't have thought so, no, because he's got a very cushy job in the fact that he's in charge of our academy. And in fact, to be honest, Gaz, I don't really want him to take the job because of what happened with Danny Schofield, who was another town legend who got, you know, he did make the jump. I don't, whether he wanted it properly or not, we'll never find out and we'll never know, except for the people that were in that room. But you know, what was quite clear is that, you know, Danny Schofield had been, you know, in the academy, being a town legend from the 2004 side, taking the club up as a player and remembered fondly, then took the job on interim and then got made it at the start of the season. And we were absolutely abysmal. Now, you know, is that a young head coach not being backed properly? Probably, yeah. I would say that the people above him didn't give him the resources that he needed and didn't help him really properly in any way, let him flounder. And then he ended up leaving the club. And there's, you know, I would imagine still some bitterness there. And I don't want that to happen to John Worthington. You know, John Worthington and Danny Schofield played in the same team. And I think John will look at it and go, I aren't going to end up in the same position as what Danny Schofield did. I'll stay in the academy. And like I said, I don't really want him to get the job full time because I think a person like that, Gaz, that's so respected between, you know, for the fan base, you know, I can trust him to instill that, you know, into the younger players. What does it mean to play for this football club? We haven't just got a random sort of guy that's had a decent football career that's in charge of our academy. We've got one of our own. You know, so he can say to the 17, 18-year-olds, or the, you know, the even younger now that the academy's been built back up properly. You know, he can say to the young kids, look, this is what it means to wear a shirt. Look at what we did as a team, you know, all them years back. Coming to what he's going to do in this next 10 games, you know, the players have got nowhere to hide now. They could hide behind injuries or they could hide behind Duff, you know, and his tactics and maybe complain between themselves and that. They've got nowhere to hide because I tell you what, they won't win an argument between the who the fans are going to pick because the fans are going to stick with Worthy all the way. So they better turn up and start performing because they haven't performed for the majority of the season. They've got results and we're in 7th, but I can only count on one hand the amount of performances. He did well last time. He got a 4-0 win against Sheffield Wednesday, which will always be remembered for, because at the time we thought, well, if he carried on that form, he could have maybe kept us up. We'll never find out, and we'll never know. The only thing that Worthy did with his team was although we scored goals, we also let a lot of goals in. Southampton, we lost 5-3 and we were 3-0 up, I think, at half time. We ended up losing 5-3. So it's going to be a roller coaster of the last 10 games, Gaz. That's what I'm going to say. But he's going to put his heart and soul into it. And he's going to, he'll really want to try and get us into the playoffs. And I tell you what, if we did get there and we got some players back and there's some fire in that belly, there ain't a better manager or head coach to go into a player that's one of your own. Peter Jackson's an example, people like that.
If that's the case, and he's got no intention of, or he wouldn't want it permanently, I think then what you've said is 100% right. I think you need a reset, don't you? Otherwise, you're just going to end up going down the route that we've gone down over the years, and you need to change things elsewhere behind the scenes. Otherwise, it's not going to work. Yeah,
what needs to happen, guys, is in the next 2 weeks, they need to say, look, thank you very much, Mr. Cartwright, for all you've done, but we don't think you're the right person to take the recruitment side of things forward and the football side of things. We're gonna get a new director of football in that knows what he's doing, whether it's Chris Markham, who left Bolton earlier in the season, or getting Stuart Webber back, which I will personally be up for, but I don't think he drops a League One level. And get a proper director of football in that has proper contacts in the game, that knows what they're kind of doing and how to build a football club at this sort of level. And then I'd go, right, you've got 8 games left of this season. You don't need to touch the football side of things by not giving anybody else a new contract on stupid wages. All I want you to do is find the next manager that's going to get us out of this league or going to keep us in the Championship. That's your sole job, and build a squad for next season. That's the first thing that needs to happen. And the second thing that needs to happen is the players that are out of contract, whether they're senior players or not, they need to leave the football club. We need to properly sort out this squad. Pay people like Reece Healy off that have still got a year on the contract that are just not going to play because they're always injured. Fred Eladapo, get him paid off.
New contract.
Maybe, honest to God, need to cut about 60% of this squad. It's not going to happen, but it needs to happen. It honest to God needs to happen. And then you never know, guys. We might start to have a bit of a football club back, to be honest.
We could talk about the next stage, really, in terms of all the names that could take the job come the end of the season, but we would be here till midnight. So with that, we will move on and we'll let Gaz go, because I know you've got to get off, Gaz.
Yeah, picking my lad up. He's coming back from Belgium today, so he's going to be shattered and grumpy, but yeah, go pick him up. Thanks very much, boys. Have a good rest of the show.
Cheers for coming on, Gaz. Thank you very much, mate. And then myself and Downsy are going to take a very quick 2 or 3 minute break, because Lewis Sale, he did a video for us a little bit earlier on, because he couldn't make it on tonight because he's watching Newcastle get a 0-0 draw as it stands away at West Ham. I'm sure that's enthralling for you, Lewis. But he did a video for us earlier on, reviewing everything that's happened in our non-league scene over the course of the weekend.
Hi everyone, Lewis here for the West Yorkshire Football Show. Sorry I can't make the round table tonight, chaps. As you know, I'm watching my beloved Newcastle United in action this evening, ahead of our Carabao Cup final against Liverpool on Sunday, where we can hopefully get a trophy under our belt and in that empty trophy cabinet, and let's get one over Gaz's lot hopefully at the weekend. But joking aside, I've been quite busy on the channel this weekend. I was helping Browne dissect Leeds United's defeat against Portsmouth, and was there for a big discussion about Michael Duff leaving Huddersfield Town. So do check those videos out, give them a like, get your comments in, and whilst you're there, get us a subscribe as well. Really appreciate all your support. I'm just going to do a quick roundup of everything non-league in our region. It will be a bit of a whistle-stop tour. I won't take too much of your time, but Kicking off with Halifax Town in the National League. Listen, they just keep doing what they're doing, don't they? Cementing themselves in those playoff places, beating Forest Green Rovers and Yeovil at home. I've got to say, I think they're a team to keep an eye on. I really fancy him to do really well in this end of the season finale, and I can see him going strong in the playoffs as well, which I know Dave will be really pleased about. But listen, I wouldn't discount FC Halifax Town possibly playing in the EFL next season, which will be remarkable from where they've come in recent years. Going down to the National League North, Farsley Celtic. Listen, there's unfortunately bigger things off the field to deal with than what's happening on the pitch. It's going to be a real struggle until the end of the season with a young squad learning on the job and suffering a 3-1 defeat against South Shields. But there's positives to take out of that, a really spirited display and taking a lead as well at Buxton. So, listen, obviously Davy Stockdale's gone in there to do a job, and I'm sure there's a long-term plan there for the club to survive and prosper. So good luck to everyone there at Farsley Celtic. Moving on to Guiseley. So Guiseley 0-0 against Matlock. I don't think it's a bad point. Listen, Matlock are fighting for their lives. They've had to rebuild a squad under Ryan Cresswell and Jonathan Ringwington, who's been Livingston's manager in recent years as well. Guys have got a job on to cement second spot, I'll be honest. I think home advantage is going to prove incredibly important in the playoff run, especially with the likes of Worksop, Ashton United, and it's looking like Stockton Town as well that are going to make up the playoffs with Guiseley. And one of those teams will obviously join Macclesfield into the National League North. Obviously nothing confirmed yet, but it's looking that way. And a point away from home is something to build on, but I'm sure Mark and Danny will definitely be wanting to get a few more 3-pointers on the board just to make sure that they can finish second in a really, really tight running for the end of the season. Just going on to the MPL East, won't go through every fixture and result, but listen, there's two teams who have been flying a flag for the region in that division this week. Emley beating Ashington AFC 1-0, and impressively Brighouse Town again getting a super result on the road at Sherwood Colliery, winning 4-1, and that's made even better for them by the fact that Liversidge lost at home to Sheffield and Ossett United lost as well. So I think from Brighouse's perspective and Grant Black, they'll be looking up. They're wanting to cement themselves in this league, build on that. But listen, it's super tight down there as well, at the bottom end of the table, and it's one thing that both, Brighouse, Liversidge, and let's even throw Ossett in there as well. It's going to probably go down to the final few games to decide who's going to stay in this division, and hopefully from our perspective it's all three of them. Looking across the other two divisions, the North East Counties and the North West, a couple of notable results. Albion Sports 0, Campion 0. Silsden get a win under the belt, 2-0 at home in quite a comfortable victory. But keep saying it week in, week out, Wakefield AFC, I think I've gone now 22 games unbeaten, which is just extraordinary. And are really pushing Horbury Town close to that title. They were my tip, were Horbury to win the league, but Wakefield are going about it in absolutely the right way. Change of manager, they've bolstered the squad in recent weeks, especially likes of Keelan Swales, who's played at a much higher level than Division 1 in the North East Counties, joining the team there who are playing at Featherstone Rovers, so just keep an eye on them. And unfortunately, Steeton and Barnoldswick lost to Bury at the weekend away from home at Gig Lane. They both suffered defeats. But overall, a bit of a mixed result and bag from our teams in our region. As always, we will keep you in touch with everything that's happening across West Yorkshire on our X account. So do give us a follow, do get in touch with ourselves. We'll repost and share what's happening in terms of a non-league scene and keep you updated with what's happening. But with that, enjoy the rest of the show and keep going, chaps. All the best.
There we go. That's Lewis Sale rounding us up there with the non-league scene. And I'd like to say that joining us now to talk all things Leeds United are, of course, Stephen Browne and Jayson Boocker. How are we, gents? You all right?
Good. Very well, mate.
All things considered. I'd have liked a little bit of a warning to that then, because I was totally not read it, but...
At least you weren't eating still.
Yeah, that's true.
Worse.
True.
Yeah, I'll let you finish your tea first.
Sure, mate.
Go on, Downsy.
No, I was just going to say it's nice to see Lou not being a glory spot for a change, isn't it? You know what I mean? Supporting Newcastle tonight.
Yeah, I mean, imagine like bunking up from the show for a 0-0 draw at half time away at West Ham in a game that they're going to lose anyway. It's not even that important, is it really? Right, we'll get you started, and then to be honest, I think me and Downsy might leave you to it at some point to finish off the Leeds United stuff, but we'll get it started at least. And yesterday, probably not the result that we're expecting from Leeds, given the run-in. We'll start with you, Brownie. What was your take on yesterday? Obviously, you and Lou did about an hour or so in the end dissecting the result yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely flew by. It did, and thank you for Lou stepping in and doing it, because it's always better when you got someone to bounce off, isn't it, rather than just doing a monologue to kind of.
It's just you shouting in the wind.
Yeah, exactly. Someone to restrain me in, and kind of talk sense.
To be fair, Brownie, it's probably the most sense that's been talked on that show for a while, with Jay not being there, to be honest. You know what I mean?
He's missed. He was missed. Come on. Yeah. Can we kick him off, please? Now
I'm going. It's fine. I'll see.
What's going on?
I'm going. I'll see you later, boys. Good luck for the rest of the stream. Enjoy the Leeds chat, because this is where I end. Up the Pompey, and I'm looking forward to seeing Burnley and Sheffield in the Prem next season. And I agree with the guy on TalkSport. Whether Leeds go up or not, Farke needs sacking 100%. Right, see you later, boys. Enjoy that, Jay. Bye.
It's amazing that the most enjoyment that he's getting at the moment in football is from Leeds United losing the first game in 18, isn't it?
I don't agree with that. No, that's not what it is.
It's pretty bad, isn't it? It is.
I can't believe he stayed on. He stayed on just to do that. And now he's gone. There we go.
And I'm back.
Oh, for God's sake! Will you just...
Oh my word!
Can I kick him out somehow?
It's not a private Discord down there. Like, we're actually live. You know what I mean? Such a child.
So yes, Pompey away yesterday, Brownie.
Yes. So just a strange one, wasn't it? It was one of those kind of games where you're looking at the chances we made, chances we missed, and it just wasn't our day. It wasn't our day, and yeah, it's been on my mind all day. It's what I've been thinking about most of the day. I'm not going to lie, trying to avoid some content, seeing what people are saying. Farke's press conference was today. I thought, as he always does, speaks sense. Very calm and measured about it. Not going to panic. Hopefully we can bounce back Wednesday. Could possibly be out of the automatics at that point, which is bizarre to think, after that Sheffield United game, that points gap that we opened up, I think at that point a lot of Leeds fans were very, very confident that it was pretty much done at that point, but not to be. Just odd, just really odd. I mean, it's, you can talk about poor performances from players, you can talk about lack of impact from the subs. Look, I don't know how much credence you give to XG, but we had like 2.5 XG to Portsmouth 0.6, and you're just left scratching your head. I mean, at this stage of the season, it's not really about playing well. It's not about dominating games from start to finish. It's just about getting results, getting over the line, and we did enough to win that yesterday. Really, when you look at the chances, you look at the penalty decision we didn't get. And my concern is this, it's this kind of thing that just bites us, really. I don't know what else we can do. It's just a head scratcher. Hopefully it's just, it's a one-off. Look, we were always going to lose a game again. It's, 17 games unbeaten. It's phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. But Burnley and Sheffield United look strong. They keep going. Burnley with Marcus Edwards, who's come in, and their attack now. Their attack, it looks like they've got that together now. They're scoring for fun now. They're only 10 goals behind us on the goal difference. So it really is a 3-horse chase now for this automatics, and we just got to hold his nerve, and see what happens. I mean,
I'm sure the rest of the championship, to be honest, are quite relieved that Leeds have dropped some points in the last 2 games, because it does just go to show that the championship, as we always say, is one of those leagues where on any given day, anyone can beat anyone. But it does go to show that this machine, is still human. It's not the full robotic Farke machine that the way it's been of the previous 16 games. And that actually there are one or two, there are ways and chinks that can happen, Jay. And I say it's certainly from a neutral perspective, from my perspective, it's gone back to making a title race very interesting. But I imagine, to be fair, I imagine you're just as confident as ever because that's just the way you are with Leeds at this season, to be honest. Whereas I imagine Brownie is shaking a little bit that Sheffield United and Burnley are going to somehow get to the top 2 ahead of you.
I think that I've been dead relaxed all year, and like a loss away at Portsmouth, who have lost 1 game in 13 at home, are a good side, and on another day we win that game 4-0, and nobody's saying anything. I didn't think there was that much difference between that performance and some of the performances that we've seen during that 16-game run. We weren't great, but we did more than enough to win a game away from home. You know, the penalty decision it's a stinker. It's an absolute stinker. We almost certainly will score that. And then on any other day, Pirro scores the 2 that he gets. Firpo should score as well and equalise and then give us the last 20 minutes when we've got his tails up. So, you know, it weren't a game of fine margins. Them chances were massive. They weren't half chances. They were massive chances. Yeah. And so, like, for me, as long as you are always doing them things, like if we'd have lost 1-0 and we didn't create any chances, then sure, we can have a conversation about what's going on here. Yeah, there were a couple of poor performances within that squad of players. We weren't at as absolute thriving best, but like Brownie said, we still did more than enough to win the game. So I'm not at all worried because, like Brownie says, we were gonna lose 1 between now and the end of the season. You know, like.
It was hard to pinpoint where, though, to be fair.
Well, I mean, is it if Burnley had been going there or Sheffield United had been going to Portsmouth and they'd have come away with a 1-0 loss, would anybody have been that surprised? It'd have been, Sheffield United have lost away at Portsmouth. Oh, well, you know what I mean? Like, Farnham Park's a tricky place to go. So
it is, but you've got the Leeds fan base, and my God, does the Leeds fan base love any reason for a meltdown?
It's a problem within the fan base. It's not actually reality. You know, like this run that we've been on is unbelievable. Like that's the truth. I know it's hard to hear, but that's the reality. Just in Gavin's comment about his play being too slow. Like the play was not great, but it was enough to win that game. You know, it was enough. The performances that we gave were enough to win that game. Portsmouth had a 15 or 20 minute spell at the not the start of the second half, but from probably about 55 minutes to about 70 minutes where they dominated the game. But that were it. I would expect to go to some away grounds within this division and lose periods of the game.
Yeah, it happens.
Like that's
football.
I'm telling you, there is this kind of notion within the fan base that just thinks we should just dominate every game for 90 minutes and win 3-0 and go home. That's what a lot of our fan base think, and it's just not the reality. So yeah, I just don't buy into it at all. And you know, the fixtures that we've got now between now and the end of the season, we've got Bristol City to play at home, who were 7th. The rest of the teams that we've got to play are all in the either mid-table or the bottom half. 12th and below basically. Whereas Burnley have got to play 4 of the top 7 in the last 10 games, and Sheffield United have got to play 4 of the top 8 plus Sheffield Wednesday. So, and they've got to play each other. Like, yeah. In what world am I going to start getting worried? Like, before Sheffield United and Sunderland, before them 2 games, I'd have taken being level on points with Sheffield and 2 in front of Burnley. I would have taken that. So, I'm just not about to start freaking out about it.
Let's see what sort of world does get worried about it. Brownie.
No. Do you know what? To be honest, I think what we've learned over this season and even last season is, you know, trust in Farker, trust the system. We've got ourselves into this situation. I mean, it had all the hallmarks, didn't it, against Portsmouth away, Fratton Park, the noise, the Leeds United tax, telly game, you know, the fact that it's Leeds United coming to town. I don't care what anybody says. That gives opposition an extra 5-10%. You know, you beat Sheffield United, you beat Burnley, it's like meh. Beat Leeds United, it's something. I don't care what anybody says. You can scoff, Chris, but I think it honestly, it gives them an extra something, and it adds pressure to our boys. It absolutely does. And I think the problem for me yesterday, and you know, was some individual performances were not great. Tanaka, because the thing, and I said this to Lou yesterday. The word I use for Tanaka is trust, and he got caught a few times on the ball. I think it unsettled us, and I'm not picking it out as his fault we lost or anything like that, but just that little chink in the armour, you know, it all contributes. It gives them, you know, that confidence. You miss a couple of chances. I mean, if we'd have had the penalty, or if Peru scores one of them, we'd have probably won 3-4-0 even. You know, we'd have probably walked it by the end. But it just didn't work out that way. Am I freaking out though? No, I'm not. I'm disappointed. I'm gutted we don't have the points gap. I'm not going to lie. Can't sit here and say I'm not gutted that we don't have a more sizable gap.
Yeah,
because we worked so hard for it. We had 2 last-minute wins against Sheffield United and Sunderland. You know, really hard fought, you know, games. And when we came away from that Sheffield United game, it felt like one foot in the Premier League. So I am gutted that it's gone away, but by no means am I kind of thinking that's it. We're done for.
Just let me say on that as well. Like on any given day, when your team's not fully at it, you can get away with 1 or 2 passengers, maybe even 3 or 4. So, you know, Tanaka can have a poor game, Pascal can have a poor game or whatever. But then when you start putting 5, 6 and 7 of them together and Piro's missing them chances, and then you don't get the penalty, and then this happens, and then you start having just one of them days. That's just football sometimes, isn't it? Like, and it was one of them games. Like, this does not need to be a mass kind of panic. It really doesn't. What I will say in kind of not contradicting that, but with a bit of a caveat, is that Wednesday is now massive. Not because I then think it's all over if we don't beat Millwall, because Millwall have been a problem for us this season anyway.
Yeah.
But what will then happen within the fan base is hysteria. There will be just complete and utter meltdown. And because, you know, tomorrow Sheffield United and Burnley both play before we do, we could be out of the top 2 by Wednesday evening. And again, I don't think that means that we won't get top 2. I'd still back us to finish top 2.
To be fair
But
as well,
it is a concern that.
To be fair as well, yes, they both play before Leeds do. However, they are both tough games. West Brom at home for Burnley, and Bristol City, as you said, are doing well at the game at home for Sheffield United. So it's not like they're playing Plymouth and Luton, are more guaranteed, in inverted commas, 3 points, and then the pressure mounts. It's difficult games all around. And as you say, Leeds, though, have that Millwall factor going for Wednesday.
Yeah, I just think we just need to isolate every game as it comes. Yeah, Wednesday is a massive game, and they will be massively up for putting a spanner in the works for us. Get it? And we need to deal with that. Again, I'm in danger of just making this a back and forth between me and Gav, but mentality, like in what world, Gavin, is mentality a problem with this team? We've just been saying that in 2 of his biggest games, we managed to not only score last-minute winners, but turn both games around from being behind. If that isn't having good mentality, then what is? We were undefeated in 17 games. Now, I do think, I'm hoping that this is maybe what you're getting at. I mean, we throw away decent gaps. What? Like, we can't do much more than win nearly every week and not lose in 17 games. It's just a mental thing to say. What I do think you maybe are pointing towards is I do think we are a little bit physically weak at times, and we do lack a bit of leadership, which is we miss when Ampadu's not in there. I do think that there is a soft underbelly to this team during the game, in which if a team is a little bit physical with us, we don't like it. I can get on board with that. Ooh. But that's not the same as not having good mentality, because this team has actual a lot of mentality. I think the mentality that we've seen from within the club, the dressing room, the connection with Farker and the team, I think is really, really strong. So I just don't agree with that at all. I don't agree with that.
Go on, Browne.
No, I was just going to say, talking about the Millwall game as well, and Jay's right. And I said to Lou last night, I can just imagine if we're out of the automatics, I know what that atmosphere is like in that stadium. Jay'll have experienced it numerous times. The pressure's on. Every misplaced pass will be groaned at. And if we don't get off to a flying start, that pressure is just going to crank up. And it's going to be fascinating to see how the crowd deal with it as well. And I don't know if you've seen Farker's press conference, but he's absolutely given a rallying cry to the fans, saying we need the fans' support, we need them behind us at home, because we're not going to get any help from anywhere else. So he's clearly today saying we need the fans behind us, because he's probably worried himself that that Ellen Road crowd can be tough at times, and you know, the expectations are through the roof, and if it isn't going all our way, it can be difficult. I mean, you know, the last Millwall game, I was there for the FA Cup game, a nothing game, and you know, fans were agitated, and it was moody, and it was, you know, and that was a nothing game really. So God knows what it'll be like come Wednesday, and then we've got QPR away, you know, another kickoff, which is
well, I was going to come to that because,
not
as you say,
to that one.
A trip to Loftus Road at lunchtime, and QPR, to their credit, again, I mean, to be fair, I think the form, they've lost the last 3. It's dropped away a little bit of late, but they did have a particularly good run again where they kind of pulled themselves away from the relegation spots and all the way up towards looking like they might seek the playoffs. Doesn't look that way now, but still not an easy place to go. And more to the point, Leeds and lunchtime kickoffs this season haven't necessarily been the best of friends.
No, I think is it two wins out of 10?
2 in 13, I think.
Yeah, something like that, isn't it? Yeah, it's
just coincidence. I am not buying into a set of footballers end up not winning a game because of the time of the kickoff. It's just coincidence, mate. If that game would have been at 3:00, we'd have still had that result. Like, I know that's a really boring answer, but that's what it is. That's the reality.
What do you think of the Ampadu factor? Because remember before it was being said in the season, wasn't it, when he was out last time, that away we had a couple of, you know, we weren't able to kind of win game after game away from home. I'm not saying you should always do that, but it was amazing when Ampadu came into it, that away form just clicked, didn't it? And suddenly we're just racking up win after win. I mean, if there's anything that's putting a doubt in my head now, it's God, we're gonna miss Ampadu. That leadership, that physicality.
How long's he out for?
The next
I
two,
don't
and
think
then the international break.
I don't.
That's what we've heard. Yeah, Browne might be right. Browne might be right. That's what I'm here. That's what we've heard, is that he'll be back after the international break. But
no, I don't think we'll see him. I really don't. His knee, he's done his knee. They're holding off an operation. No, I just don't see it myself, and I wouldn't rely on it. You know, I think we've got what we've got now, and we're gonna have to figure it out. But he's a huge blow to lose.
Yeah, he is. Is a massive miss. I mean, you're seeing more and more what I've been saying all season about Pascal and him in the back line in comparison to Ampadu. You know, he's a better defender than Ampadu as far as defensive capabilities are concerned. He can head a ball better. He can tackle. The actual specific art of tackling, he is better than Ampadu. But everything else, the leadership, the control, the positioning, the mentality, the reading of the game, the passing, the distribution, all of that Ampadu brings it's literally leagues above Pascal. The biggest being the leadership and the concentration. And you know, it's a massive difference to that back line. You know, and I know the goal at the weekend has been getting a lot of heat. I think it's very easy to put any goal that we concede on the hologram that has been Illan Meslier for the year. Like, it's very easy to kind of just throw it his way. And I can understand what people are saying, he didn't get out quick enough and all the rest of it. But we don't know that in the build-up to that, had Ampadu been alongside Joe Rodon, he's not screaming at Joe, coming over your shoulder, right, okay, Joe Rodon set off a yard earlier and he then gets there. Like, these are the things that you can't measure or read or see as a fan. That's the reality of it. You know what I mean? Like, there's different phases to what happened in that play before it got to Illan Meslier. So, yeah, he's a massive miss, mate. He's a massive miss.
I want to get your take on this, because this is something I talked about with Lou last night. I don't know what you make of this. And look, it's pointless in a way discussing it because there's nothing we can do. But just looking at Matteo Joseph and the lack of impact he's having at the minute, and doesn't look like having, the fact that Patrick Bamford, I mean, can't get fit for love nor money. Should Leeds have looked to have brought in another striker, a different profile to Joe Peru, someone who could maybe not challenge to start, but can come on and produce something?
I'm getting deja vu here. Haven't we been saying this? We've certainly said it on the last 2 deadline day shows. Like, should we have signed a striker in this window?
Well, I just think, you know, look, it's easy hindsight. You know, it's 2020 in it, obviously, but just, I mean, I've got to say the Joseph drop off for me is kind of, you know, not what I expected. You know, we got an offer from him in January. Did that turn his head? I don't know, but you know, should we have looked to have done something there? Just, I mean, you know, it would have been nice if we could have brought someone on striker who could have just maybe offered something different, drop Joe back into that number 10 if it's not working for Brendan, and just something else. Because I mean, Joseph at the minute, it's just, he looks like he's just not ready. He just looks.
He's looking like a low move to the National League would benefit him.
Yeah, he's miles off.
Physicality.
I mean, his touch at the weekend was just atrocious. The ball was bouncing off him, and it is all confidence, I would say. Like, he's clearly, a talented footballer. He's got something about him, but he's just not ready. He's just not ready. And I mean, God, imagine if some of the fans had got their way and he'd have been playing last year. I mean, jeez, like, he's so far off it. Pirro, I think has been brilliant for the large parts of the season. He's the top scorer in the championship.
Top goal scorer. No one can whinge about Pirro, surely, anymore.
He's the top scorer in the division. He's got the most G&A over the whole division as well. Like, he's contributing in different ways than he was last season. He's evolved his game massively. Yeah. His option to change at 10 is Pirro. Like, he drops him in there. Like, he's vital for this team. And in my opinion, at the weekend, if he could replay that game another 9 times, he scores both of them in the other 9. Like, I truly believe that he would. Like, he's such a predator in front of goal. To come to your question, I mean, if Bamford was fit, he would be second choice. He would be absolutely stonewall second choice because he's miles better than Mateo Joseph. He just is. And I was saying for weeks and weeks and weeks when people were saying that Joseph should start, that Pirro's hold-up play and link-up play was better than Joseph's. And it is. It's literally light years better. So, yeah, Joseph's just miles off it at the moment. But I still think, coming back to the crux of the question, Brownie, is that the players that you would be looking at that would have potentially filled that role. Let's take Adam Armstrong as an example. I saw another content creator say that, we could have had him. We said we didn't want him, blah, 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 blah. I don't believe for a second that the club said that they didn't want Adam Armstrong. I believe that the club have said to Adam Armstrong, you're going to be second choice behind Joe Pirro. And he said, no, you're all right. I'll go to Blackburn and play every week under Tony Mowbray. Because that's the reality of football, right? West Brom. Sorry, he played for him under at Blackburn. Yeah. He's gone to West Brom, a manager that he played for him under at Blackburn. So, because it's not just Leeds United want me, I signed for Leeds United. There is conversations that happen within this. Yeah, like
am I going to play games if I go to Leeds United? If not, I'll go elsewhere.
Exactly. Ben Berrett Diaz. People say, "Oh, we should have signed him." Well, he's played for Sheffield United before. He knows Chris Wilder. He's going to start every week. Why would he come to Leeds over us? Why would he come to Leeds over Sheffield United? So these things, and then you're into the next realm of player that aren't good enough. We already have a mentality problem with this club and getting the right players to be able to play for Leeds United and play to the levels that they're capable of. Why would you then go and sign somebody? People are saying now, oh, we should have kept Joffe. He's in a relegation battle for Hull. Like, that's not the answer. Just because he's now not here doesn't make him the answer. But it drives me mad, if I'm honest. It absolutely drives me mad. I'm going on soapbox because I've been waiting 24 hours to say this. Seen Gavin say about playing Nonto at 10. Why? When have you ever seen that work? That's just, it's just because we've never done it. Right, okay, I know what to do. In the most critical time that we get it right, let's play a player that's not a 10 at 10. Like, it's just the same as last season saying play Mateo Joseph up front.
What do you think of the Brendan? What do you think of the Brendan situation? Because not his best game yesterday. Is not. I mean, I said to Lou, do you remember him kind of offering anything creatively or anything? I mean, what's your take there? I mean, obviously we're big supporters of Brendan. We've loved what he's done this season. It's a tricky one, isn't it?
He had a poor game yesterday. He had a poor game yesterday. He wasn't as involved as what he should have been. He wasn't in them areas of the pitch. And again, in a physical game, he's one that unfortunately is going to get picked up a little bit more often. I don't take any note of the assist column because I think he often plays the ball before the assist. I think a lot of our function comes through Pirro, Dan James and Manor Solomon. That's where a lot of the assists come from, and he's the link-up that plays the pass before that. You won't say drop Tanaka because he's not got a lot of assists. Our assists come from Jayden Bogle, Junior Firpo, Dan James, and Manor Solomon mainly, and then Pirro chips on with the rest for the two wingers. That's the system. If you don't understand that, you don't understand the tactic. You're not watching what's happening in front of you. that doesn't mean that he can get away with them playing poorly. Yesterday, he was anonymous. He wasn't there. And he still did the pressing, but because of the way that the rest of the team was playing, it wasn't as functional. It wasn't as effective. It didn't matter as much. So you can't then praise his gameplay. The problem is, Brownie, what do you do? Because the solution to dropping Brendan Aronson is bringing Perot into the 10 and starting Mateo Joseph. So you're telling me that you want that instead? No.
That doesn't look like a good option either, does it?
Exactly. So have we made a failing not getting a 10? Yes. We're going back to January again. Yeah. I definitely think the case of getting a 10 is stronger than the 1 getting the 9, given the options that we've got and how reliable Joe Perot is and how injury-free he is. The problem at 10 is an issue, but that doesn't mean that the solution then is putting Nonto there or putting Solomon there. It's not. I promise you, it's not.
On that note, I'm going to bow out and leave you to go through the other 27 topics of Leeds United content that you've got listed down, looking at the week ahead. But a pleasure, as always, gents. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you very much.
See you very soon. I will
see you,
pass
mate.
the baton on to you, Brownie.
Thank you very much, mate. I'll see you soon.
We will. Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye. There we go, Chris Bell. Thank you very much, mate. Yeah, I tell you what, let's just make it feel more like us. Let's get a Leeds background on, shall we? There we go. There we go. Yeah, I mean we've talked about kind of performance levels and what you can do. What about the impact from the subs? Obviously, we've mentioned Joseph, but Ramazani. Yeah, you know, you were a bit frustrated with him yesterday, weren't you? And just generally how him and Nonto are seizing or not really seizing their opportunities at the minute.
I think Ramazan has been especially disappointing since the injury. I mean, I had such high hopes for what we'd see on the back of what we'd seen for the rest of the season when he did come back from injury. And you know, people can fire the point that he's not having enough time to come on and affect games. Well, he came on and scored one and assisted one in 15 minutes a few weeks back, and he staked a claim. And you know, Solomon and Dan James have been so good, you can't not start them. So I don't, you know, and when Ramazani did start, I forget which game it was. Derby away, maybe, just rings a bell for it. But anyway, he has started a game since he came back from injury, and he stunk. He absolutely stunk the place out. Well, I mean, the FA Cup game, both of them stunk. And I mean, a lot of them did that day. There might have been too many changes. I can hear that argument. But again, the solution just can't always be looking for somebody that's just not playing, because if Ramazani were playing and stinking, you'd say, right, okay, let's start Solomon. Like it's bigger than that. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that there isn't some credence to making changes, but the players have got to earn it. You know, Ramazani came on with plenty of time to affect the game yesterday and did nothing. He did nothing. He did less than nothing. You know, I had people telling me at half-time that Solomon had a bad half. He hadn't. That's just not reality. We weren't playing great, and he was a 6 out of 10 in and amongst that. He then created his best chance of the game. That were, you know, Dan James to Solomon rounding the keeper and putting it on the plate for Perot. You know, I don't know what more people really want. There just seems to be this kind of stat nerd thing for certain players, and reputation kind of actually changes the reality of what's happening. So for me, yeah, them players have got to earn it. They've got to earn it. Rothwell against West Brom had a really poor game and didn't deserve to start away at Portsmouth. I'd have started Gruev as well. Yeah, and again, if you don't understand what Gruev does within the system, that's on you. Yeah,
I thought Gruev were decent yesterday. I thought Gruev was fine. The gaps, and he did Gruev things. He always looks a bit funny when he's running with the ball. No, please don't do that.
Don't run with the ball, Gruev.
But you know, tidying, recycling, filling those gaps on, you know, at left back when Junior's halfway up the pitch. You know, I think that was fine. And yeah, you know, Rothwell didn't cover himself in glory against West Brom, did he?
We had too many half performances yesterday, and even then, we still deserve to win the game. We still should have won the game. If we'd have scored when we should have done, we'd have won the game comfortably. But you know, I go through the team yesterday. You know what? I actually thought Melly had a really good game yesterday.
Yeah.
And with the exception of the moment, and if you want to put that at his door, fine. But the rest of the game, I actually thought he commanded his box extremely well. His punches were decent. His distribution was excellent. He was pinging balls to the fullbacks. I thought Bogle was off it. I thought Pascal was off it. I thought Firpo was off it for a large majority. He got involved a little bit when we went 1-0 down. Tanaka were miles off it. Perrault obviously missed his chances, his moments. Solomon didn't have his greatest game. I thought Dan James was okay, but still not his best. Aronson had a poor game. I thought the only players that came out with good games was Joe Rodon, Meslier for large parts, and Gruev. I'd have put Gruev in that category as well. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. You've got to look to the facts that, like, if we were sat here with injury problems, Browne, there, fine, we can really hark back to recruitment, but we've still got nearly everybody fit. We couldn't have signed another centre back. Not at the time when you're thinking Verber's going to be back. We've got Pascal, we've got Ampadu that can play there, we've got Rodon there. Like, you can't get the quality to just sit in the reserves waiting for 2 injuries to happen. No. You just can't. Like, I'm happy to argue the number 10 spot, but even then, we've still got more than enough, and we shouldn't be having an absolute meltdown about this.
No. So what do you think happens next? Do you have last year in your mind where it was the last 11 games last season, I think, where we won 3 out of the last 11, and that all that kind of good form and momentum just ground to a halt, and you know, we had difficult defeats obviously against QPR and everything. I mean, how do you feel about going into this now? The fact that we've lost this points gap, and you know, some of those performances were below par at the weekend. How do you really feel about going into this last 10 games? Do you still back us? Or I mean, it's just so tricky, isn't it? Because it really is now, it's just a free-for-all, isn't it, really? And who holds the nerve, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was done. I did, and it's now clearly not. I still think we're in a very, very strong position given the teams that we've got to play and the teams that Sheffield United and Burnley have got to play. You know, Sheffield United and Burnley have got to play each other. They're straight away 3 points. You know, both of them have to win more games than us for us to not go up.
Yeah,
it's not just I don't care about winning the league. I'd like to do it, but you're talking about both teams doing it, and they have both got 4 out of the top 8 to play each. They've got each other to play, and Sheffield United have got Sheffield Wednesday in a derby. So I fully expect them to be losing games and dropping points.
Yeah.
Now, if we get to the end of the season and all 3 of us again have hit over 90 points, then shit me. Like, what can I even say? Because I was absolutely convinced at the start of the season that we'd never see a season like last year. And we've just got to hope that we come out on top out of them because, you know, between now and the end of the season, we've got the games to do that. Now, the big difference between this stage of this season and the same stage of last season is that the performances have still been fairly decent. You know, like up until West Brom, we were pretty much blowing teams away. West Brom are an awkward side with a good manager, some good players. And, you know, again, on the day, we could have still won that game. And I don't read much into yesterday. Like, it's just one of them games that you experience in football sometimes where you win a game, you lose a game that you should probably win. You know, we get the penalty, we score one of the chances before they do. It's a different kettle of fish. So I'm not like, we have to see what happens. It's fluid. This will change dramatically depending on what happens Wednesday at the weekend. I do think that this week is a bit of an acid test for us. You know, I do. I can understand that. Like, if we come out of this next 2 with 1 point or 2 points or no points, you're talking about a very, very different conversation. And you have to then potentially go back to the drawing board and have a look at what's going on, what's happened, has the levels dropped. But if we play the same way, we will still win most of these games. Yeah. We will. So,
yeah,
I'm not worried. I'm still not worried.
Yeah.
Come Wednesday, I will
fluid.
be.
It's fluid, so we'll see on the
Wednesday review what's happening.
Oh,
I mean,
Wednesday we lose, mate, and I'm not going to say I'll be having a meltdown, but I'll be worried. I would be worried then because then you gain the momentum the other way, don't you? Yeah. And every game the pressure just ramps up and hypens. But you know, I can see the fixtures here that we've got. I'm not going to read all the teams out, but 12th, 14th, 25th, 23rd, 9th, 16th, 18th, 20th, 7th, 24th. That's the list of the teams that we've got to play in terms of their current league position. We only need to win another 5 or 6.
Yeah.
We don't even need to win 8, 9, 10. We don't. We need to win 5 or 6. And if we can't do it against some teams, then we don't deserve to go up. I said this last season. So, you know, and not only that, but we've got a few teams in there that are going to have nothing to play for. Preston at home, Oxford away will likely be safe by then. You know, we have got a couple fighting relegation, but ultimately, some of these are going to have nothing to play for. Swansea in 3 games got nothing to play for. QPR at the weekend, you could argue, have got nothing to play for. In 14th, they're not going to go up, not going to go down. So, I'm still not worried at this stage, mate. I'm not.
No, I mean, Leicester last season, I mean, they had a massive wobble, didn't they? They'd been leading and then they won 3 in 10 or something stupid and then kind of steadied the ship towards the end. If you're a Leeds player, Jason, you're in that dressing room, you're on the training pitch with them now. What do you think's going through their head? I mean, it's human nature, isn't it? You know, look at what happened 12 months ago and we don't want it to happen again. The pressure racking up, you know, you've lost that points gap. I mean, how do you think they're coping with it?
I mean, everything I've seen of this team this year has shown that, contrary to what Gav says, they've got a mass amount of mentality. I think they have shown the complete opposite of what he's trying to say. Every time we've been really backs to the walls, we've gone and delivered in big moments, in big games, home and away. You know, from being behind, you know, we've done it. We've lost 4 games all season and we've lost all 4 of them 1-0. We've shown the capabilities to be able to stay in games even when we've not played particularly well and still go. You know, even at the weekend, people can say what they want about the performance. We were still right at it in the last minute. And we then had a header saved with a point blank saved by the keeper in the last minute. Gavin, mentality went in front. No, when we were actually behind in 2 of the biggest games that we've had this season, Sheffield United and Sunderland, we were both behind in. So stop. But Browne spoke about this before. We like to self-harm as Leeds fans. We do, Brownie. We do. We like to self-harm. And the truth is you're hurting yourself by lying to yourself because what you're saying is just not real. It's not real. You know, we're freaking out like this we're still top of the league. Yeah. Like, it's madness. We've had 2 fishy results out of 36 that came before. It's mental.
We've known weak Leeds teams, haven't we? We've known mentally weak teams. We've seen bad Leeds teams before. We know what it looks like. We know what it smells like. This is anything but.
Again, you're spot on. I mean, again, Gav's doing it. So, like, I counter his point as to why he's wrong. And then he goes, when we are ahead on points, well, we're ahead on points at the weekend. So which one is it? Because we were ahead on points at the weekend and now we're not. So, like, I don't get what you're trying to say. Like, you can't just constantly find the next negative that makes this kind of self-harm worthwhile. It's just not, mate. I promise you, it's not. And I'm not having a dig, Gav. You are not on your own with this, by the way. The mass amount of online Leeds fan base is like this, and I don't really get it. We make it worse. You know, the apprehension and the tension that you're talking about that we're going to experience on Wednesday comes from us. Like, we need to be enjoying. That's why Ipswich had such momentum last year, because they couldn't lose, mate. It's amazing what that can do, and we, like, me talking about it and fans in the mass talking about it isn't going to change anything, but it is a reality. And you know, going back to that behind closed doors and no fan base, you look at what they had to then deal with no fan base and the way that they dealt with the pressure. It shows you, and the 9th place finish, it shows you how difficult it is to deal with us. And I'm not victim blaming. I promise you. No. That is what we create. So yeah.
No, I agree, and that's one of the things I don't like generally about kind of us in our status being in the Championship, because it's just so the expectation. You win every game. There's no room for a bad result or even a draw. It's a nightmare, and I think you're right. The whole beast feeds it as well. It's like, you know. Yeah. You know, so you look on socials, you look on YouTube at the channels, and it's thumbnails of, you know, it's the end of the world, and it's bottling it again, and it's a crisis, and you know, and it's this whole thing that just feeds itself. And because Leeds, you know, it's like I said to Chris earlier, it's Leeds tax. You know, look, we're the biggest club by a mile. I mean, it's just not even. It's not even close. And we do self-harm. We do put the pressure on ourselves. You know, and it's. I know it's difficult. Look, I've been twisted up about yesterday's result, and because it's just. I just want it so bad to get to the Premier League. I had plans for us, Jess. I had videos about who we're going to buy in the Premier League and what we're going to do. And I'm like, God damn it, don't you take this away from us now. But it's, the reality is we've put ourselves in an unbelievable position. If we did, if you'd have said to me at the start of the season, right, 10 games to go, you are top on goal difference significantly so, and you've got the best run of fixtures on paper, would you take it? I go, yes. Let me at it. Let me at it. What do you think of Burnley and Sheffield United? I mean, we've got to give credit to them. Let's just, you've got to give credit to Wilder, Parker, these old dogs of the Championship, been there, done it, and whether you like them or not, they've kept pace with us. They've kept pace with a Leeds team that has been exceptional. You've just got to hold your hands up sometimes and say, look, I mean, I agree with you. I never thought we'd see 3 teams again potentially above 90 points. It looks like we're on course for it though, but sometimes you just got to hold your hands up and say, yeah, fair play. Let's just hopefully be the ones who finish on top this time. Yeah.
You're absolutely spot on, mate. I mean, I think Burnley have found a bit of a different gear since January. Their signings really seem to have made a big difference to the way that they're able to score goals, which is a big shame as far as being a Leeds United fan's concerned, because they were obviously so devastating at the back as well. That was kind of the only saving grace. Marcus Edwards has made a big difference. So yeah, and Sheffield United, I mean, I don't know how they keep doing it because I think they're absolutely pony. I really do. I think they're so crap. And every time I watch them, I just think
it's frustrating.
You've just got another one over the line. It's mental. It's absolutely mental. And I mean, they went and lost 3-0 to Hull, didn't they, a few weeks ago? And I was like, that's the kind of result that I have been seeing every week coming, and they win 1-0. So I'm just hoping that they will drop more points against the better teams that are in and around. And they've got 4 of the top 8 to play plus Sheffield Wednesday. So 5 of their games are against fairly competent sides that are going to have playoffs to battle for. They've got Coventry to play. They've got some good sides to come to Sheffield United. I do think that they will be probably the one, if Leeds go up, that miss out at this stage. I think Burnley are probably a little bit more of a juggernaut and they've just got a little bit more about them. They've got a lot of quality within that side. I think they're massively hampered by Scott Parker personally. But, what he does defensively is very effective. You can't argue that. And they've got brilliant defenders. So why wouldn't you play around your strengths? So I get it. You know what I mean? So, yeah, mate, it's unbelievable. Like, I'm telling you, if Leeds are in the Premier League next season, we'll look at the Championship, and top on in the Championship will finish on 87 points. Second will be on 79, and third will be on like 68 or something. It will. It'll be back to normal. It'll be back to bloody normal, and it won't be like this. So, yeah.
I agree, because, it's that thing, isn't it? When we were watching Ipswich last year and, they're getting all these lucky goals and last-minute winners. And I agree, every time I've watched Sheffield United, you watch the highlights and their opponents, miss open goals. And you don't want to just blame it all on luck, but sometimes I look at Leeds against West Brom. Farker said it, we drop off a couple percent, drop points, punished.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And whether you call Mellier's an error at the weekend or not, or the defence, it's like, what other chances did Pompey really create against us? And they beat us. Yeah. I mean, it's just so Leedsy.
That game, mate. That game we have seen nearly every time we've lost this season. We've lost 4 games and we've lost them all 1-0. And they've all been very, very similar, where we concede one decent chance, they score it, we can't score because they sit everybody behind the ball, and then we lose a game. Now, in the other 3, what I would say is that we didn't create the level of chances that we did before the goal. The goal has not tended to come in the second half in the games that we've lost. Tend to come in the first half early, and then we've struggled for the 90 minutes. This game was very different in that we actually had a boatload of really good chances. And the Firpo chance at 1-0 down, I think is as good as probably as good as the first Pirro chance. The second chance were an absolute sitter. But the Firpo chance were massive. He had so much time to pick his spot and just didn't compose himself. So, yeah, like, we've seen this story before. And, I know the fans scoff at us. I don't care. It's the reality. Fratton Park was absolutely bouncing at the weekend. And Fratton Park is always a pretty decent place to go. They've got a great home crowd. But it ain't like that. I've watched Portsmouth this season at home, and it didn't sound like what the weekend sounded like. They want to beat us so much more than Sheffield United and Burnley. It's just the truth, and it's part of being the club that Leeds United is. You know, it's a massive statement. They can mug Leeds fans off, and we deserve it because that's the kind of fans that we are. Like we're very quick on the other side of it, so like we have it coming when it does go wrong. But that is what we have to play with week in, week out in the Championship and in League One. When we were there as well, we had it every single week. We had head and shoulders the best team in the division, but we had players. We were playing against players that wanted to beat us 10%, 15%, 20% more because it was the only chance that they were going to ever get to play at Ellen Road. It's the only chance that they were going to ever get to experience beating Leeds United. That is just I'm sorry to any other fan, of any other club listening. That's the reality, and that is what we have to deal with when we're playing Portsmouth, Stoke, Preston. Preston is one of the places I think of all the time when I think of this. They love playing us. So, yeah.
This is what worries me, This is what worries about who we've got left as well. I mean, QPR, Loftus Road, really? I mean, you just know they're going to be bouncing out. They've got practically nothing to play for. And they're just going to be, we want to beat Leeds United. I mean, last year they were like, unreal against us. That 4-0 loss, I mean, that was the end, wasn't it, last season? They were flying, and it's just, please, not anything like that again. And yeah, it is a huge factor. I mean, even Plymouth, last game of the season away at 12:30, look at that and go, they're going to be chomping at the bit. It is just the Leeds United tax, mate. Yeah. It is just the Leeds United tax. We can't get around it. Hopefully players are experienced in that. Well, they are experienced in it now. If they don't know it by now, playing for Leeds, they never will. In terms of the team makeup, obviously, do you make a change now? Do you throw Ramazani in a Nonto? Do you try and mix it up at all to kind of, I don't know, offer something different? Or is it, look, this has worked for 36 games, we go again like this? I mean, it's difficult, isn't it? Because now at this stage, you don't really want to start messing with the formula, but I don't know. It's really difficult. It's really difficult.
I'd be really, really conscious of it, mate. Really, really conscious. I think if you're going to make a change to Wednesday, I think I love Brendan Aronson, but I would maybe look at playing Joe Perreault in the 10 and playing Joseph up front. And I don't rate Joseph right now. I don't think he's the recipe for this season, but he has a physical presence that the centre-backs would probably less like to deal with than Perreault. Perreault's probably going to be a bit of an easy, stick a nut on it, body him off the ball a little bit. And Brendan obviously is what he is. He's diminutive. He's not really going to be physical in that midfield battle. You could argue that change would make some sense. I won't be changing Solomon or Dan James. Not at all. Solomon is our best player. He is our best player. Whether you like it or not, whether you've got your unconscious biases towards where he's from, or whether you just want to be right because you didn't like the fact they were on 50 grand a week, whatever your problem is, he is our best player. And he's managed to stay fit this season. He's the best player. Yeah. So you're playing. And Dan James is the most informed player in the division. So you can't drop Dan James. You have to have a better game from Jayden Bogle and Junior Firpo. You keep Gruev in the side for me in this game because I think the midfield battle is physical. He would be better placed than Rothwell. And you allow the freedom of the pitch to Junior Firpo to go and pick up them positions in attack. And then the rest of the team picks itself, doesn't it? Because you ain't got anybody else. You could argue off the back of Tanaka's performance at the weekend that you maybe even drop Tanaka and bring Rothwell in, because then you've got a set piece delivery. You've got what Rothwell brings, and Rothwell and Gruev are pretty good together as well. I'm not saying that we should drop Tanaka, by the way, on the back of one performance, but if you're talking about the performances from the weekend, he was the worst player on the pitch, which is hard for me to say, but it's true. Tanaka was the worst player on the pitch. And I know he's got a bit more credit in the bank, but if you're absolutely adamant that Brendan Aronson needs dropping for a player that's not a number 10, then Tanaka needs dropping from the weekend as well, because he stunk. He really did. He was really, really poor. He looked miles off it. I don't know if he were maybe suffering with a bit of illness or an headache or something. Sometimes that happens. He was having one of them kind of games. So, yeah, if you're going to make a change, I'll be honest with you, mate, I'd probably say the same. I would probably say the same.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, because now at this stage, 10 games to go, I mean, you don't really need to worry about resting players per se. We've had a week off now, haven't we? It's just everyone's, if you're not ready to go now, you never will be, will you, really?
They'll be desperate to play, mate. They'll be absolutely desperate to play on Wednesday. They will be fuming about what happened yesterday. They've got used to not losing. I've got used to not losing. We all have, haven't we? Like, they will be pretty wounded. Yeah, Joe Perreault will be kicking himself, mate. He will be absolutely kicking his face. I mean, you never see him look particularly flustered, do you? After he missed the second chance, he looked visibly really angry, didn't he, with himself? Because he's so used to just banging them in. So I'm sure that we'll be coming out all guns blazing Wednesday night. And I think we'll win the game. Millwall away, Den's a bit different. The cup game, I'm not really taking anything from. I think we really set about this, and if we're at his best, we win the game comfortably.
Yeah, indeed. Jason, before we go, then any final thoughts? Final 10 games of the season. Here we go.
Yeah, I mean, I'm interested to fire that back at you, just in terms of your feelings towards Wednesday night. What would you do? Would you make changes? I'm especially like I've seen a lot of people say we need changes in the front four. Aronson needs to come out, Solomon needs to come out, and James needs to come out. And I'm like, what? Like, I cannot understand it. Like, what are you talking about?
No, I agree. I think for me, central midfield is absolutely massive. And I really think against West Brom and Portsmouth, we lost in that central midfield area. And we don't really have that many options, do we? I mean, you're talking about Gruev, Rothwell, Tanaka. I would have loved Ampadu to be in it. I would have loved to have said, right, let's get Ampadu in there and get him with Gruev or get him with Rothwell. But we don't really have that option. And I agree. I just think at this point now, mixing it up too much, I just don't think it's going to work. I think, James and Solomon, I mean, they've been incredible, absolutely incredible. You can't drop them. Do you do something wacky? Do you do Nonto number 10? Do you do Ramazani number 10 or something? I'm not saying I want to see it, but Farker's not that type of guy to do that, I don't think. I think Brendan, it's an interesting one. I mean, he's played, he must have the most minutes of any player.
Yeah, he's got one of them. Him and Perreault, I think.
Yeah, he's played a phenomenal amount of minutes. My honest answer is I don't know. I absolutely don't know, because I think you've got to be really careful not to kind of look like you're just kind of starting to try it. Yeah, don't look desperate. And we still created enough to win that. What I want though, Jason, is we were losing them second balls and we didn't look up to that physical battle. Like you said, sometimes we just drop behind, don't we, in that physical battle. And I don't want to see that again. We've got to find a way of keeping that intensity, because it happened against West Brom as well. They started to get all them second balls, and it just adds to this feeling of you're not playing well, even though you're creating chances. So a long way of saying I don't have a clue, mate. I don't have a clue.
Do you think there's any world in which we would see a midfield of Tanaka, Rothwell, and Gruev, and Brendan comes out for Rothwell?
Maybe away from home.
I don't see it happening. I don't think Rothwell's a 10. I don't think Tanaka's a 10 either. But I'd just be interested to know in a game where you do expect the midfield to kind of be where the game is won and lost, whether he would maybe sit 3 in there, or Gruev being the linchpin, or Tanaka being the linchpin, or whatever, and then 2 directly in front. I do think tomorrow, Wednesday's game, is a tough one for Brendan to get the best out of Brendan in. They don't play with the ball in a possession base. They go long. So you then are looking at the things that he is good at and the thing that he's effective at being less useful, because of the. So yeah, I think it's a really.
Well, maybe you look at Joseph, you go, look, get that physical edge, just run like your life depends on it. Get stuck in physically, and maybe you can rediscover some confidence and contribute.
Yeah.
Maybe you do something like that.
But then 2 minutes in, he misses an absolute sitter. Where are you then for the game? You know what I mean? That's my problem with Joseph right now. I remember us talking about the comparison between him and Bamford. If Bamford was fit, Joseph wouldn't be anywhere near this team. He He wouldn't, mate. I'm telling you. He's miles off it now. Miles off it.
I know. It's kind of shocking, isn't it, how far off he's dropped, really. And Pat, I mean, he just can't get fit, bless him, can he? He's just nowhere. I mean, do you think we'll see Pat before the end of the season?
I think we'll see him in the squad. I don't know whether he'll make any tangible difference to what will or won't happen. But I truly believe that if he was fit, I think we'd have already seen him. I think we'd have already seen him start games. I do, because I do think he would like to play Perot in the 10 at times and rest Darrington. I don't think it's just a one size fits all kind of situation. I just think Brendan is the only really out and out 10 we have.
Yeah.
So and Perot's the only out and out 9 we have that's of sufficient quality.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I saw a goal. It came up on Twitter feed, and I think it was last year against Sheffield Wednesday. Bamford nipping in at back post and getting one here, like, if you had that kind of Bamford there, because I think it's rewritten history was decent last year when he came into the team. He was a big part of that, turned it around.
It's a bit of leadership as well. It's a bit of experience and leadership that we really are really devoid of. It is something that I think all of the teams around us have bags of. I'll look at Sheffield United and Burnley, Josh Browne, Ashley Barnes went back to Burnley. Sheffield United have Jack Robinson. They have them kind of players that make up part of that, and we don't really have that. We have Sam Byram, I think of is in that kind of catalogue, and he's not really a leader. You won't stick the captain's armband on Sam Byram as much as I like him. You have Ampadu, who's way beyond his years in terms of maturity and leadership. And then you have Carl Darlow, within that squad that's a bit of a seasoned vet. We don't have that. We have an extremely young squad. So Rothwell, Joe Rothwell's probably the kind, but again, that's not the same, is it?
No.
So it's an interesting question as to what makes what makes that full entirety. I think of Chris Basham when he were at Sheffield United. Yeah. Shite player, but he made up that unity that made Sheffield United horrible, and he was one of his. Michael Browne and Michael Tong are a good example of it. When they were at Sheffield United, they weren't great players, but they kind of brought something to Sheffield United that was beyond just their talent as a footballer. You know what I mean?
Well, it's funny. I was chatting to a mate about it, and he was saying, just on that point, someone like Strauch, far too nice. Far too nice. Do you know what I mean? Just too nice, for the championship,
He drives me mad, mate. I mean, the more and more I watch him, and the more I get my back up about what I've been saying all season, the more and more I just stick my heels into the ground and go on and on and on about his deficiencies, because he just drives me mad. I actually think he's the single most overrated player within the whole squad. I think his talent is so overinflated. The fan base love him because he's big and he's this Viking and he's a good-looking guy and he wears the captain armband. He's been here a while and all that. His talent just doesn't marry up. He's just an average championship centre-back. People have been firing back to me, Spurs are interested in him. Yeah, go and look at Spurs' recruitment. The Spurs' recruitment is dog. It's terrible. It doesn't surprise me. He's young and he's upcoming and he's still got potential and all the rest of it. But he's not a Premier League centre-back. He's not. I am telling you.
No.
I will not be convinced otherwise.
No, I saw a video. It just pops up on YouTube. You get random videos from 3 years ago, whatever, and it was Jamie Carragher and another Sky Sports pundit, analysing Leeds' defence, talking about Struijk, and this guy's abysmal. This guy's nowhere near Premier League level, and it's like fans have just forgotten this.
He's headless chicken, mate.
He is.
I know we're going on now. We've kind of gone down another alley here, haven't we? He asked if I had all else to say. We've ended up on Pascal Struijk again, but he's an headless chicken. He's just a bang average centre back. He's not a bad championship centre back. I'm not saying that. He gets into pretty much any team in the top 10 of the division, other than the other two probably promotion chasing ones. I don't know whether he'd start games for them. I really, really don't. But he starts games for us because he's our second or third choice centre back when you think of Ampadu being able to play in there as well. He's miles behind Joe Rodon. Miles and miles and miles and miles and miles.
And it's a shame Verber, it's a shame Verber has not got up to speed, because I mean, that would have been a lovely solution to that, really, wouldn't it? I was kind of expecting this season that if Verber got a chance, he would take that position, because he's a better defender than Stroy. Absolutely,
he's a better leader. He's just better. He's just better at nearly everything than Pascal. But unfortunately, and this is part of Verber's makeup, is he's very injury prone and he can't be relied on. And we know he's a bit of a rat, and that all kind of builds together into being some of his negatives. The fact is he can't be relied on as much as Pascal, and Pascal's got his injury problems as well. But you're absolutely spot on, mate. That would have been a perfect partnership. And I do believe if Verber would have got in, because of when Pascal got injured, if Verber would have been fit then and got in, Pascal wouldn't have seen game time again. He wouldn't. I'm absolutely convinced of it. Every week I watch him and I'm on eggshells with him.
Same.
I'm on, the ball over the top, the concentration. At the weekend, he was the second worst player on the pitch, was Pascal for me. His headers were just pinging all over the place. He had no control of them. His passes were going out of play. He was reading the game wrong. He was going too soon. Then he was going too late. He was getting caught in the middle ground all the time. Joe Rodon literally spent the whole game mopping up his mistakes.
Yeah.
It's just... and Pascal had Gruev right in front of him, protecting the whole of that side of the pitch.
Exactly. Stroik's best time as a Leeds defender was COVID. No fans. Him and Llorente. Unreal partnership.
The 10 games at the end of the Premier League season, when I think we won 8, lost 1 and drew 1. We had an unbelievable run. Him and Llorente were brilliant. They played brilliantly alongside each other. But we played very different football then. Pascal was not asked to be a ball-playing centre-back for a start. He gave the ball to Calvin, and Calvin did it all. And he did defend particularly well, but we played a completely different system and style, and it was for a very short period of time. Yeah. In my opinion, since the end of that season, I don't remember Pascal ever having a series of good performances. He has good games. And he has games where he has
out moments, doesn't he? Like the winner,
the headers, and the goals.
Yeah.
I mean, people were trying to. Yeah. Well, people were trying to fire that at me. Oh, look at what he did. Yeah, he might as well played up front that game. Exactly. You know what I mean? Like, that's not what he's there to do. That's not his job. Like, I'm not saying he can't defend. Like, I feel like I always have to re-clarify myself, but he's just his overall gameplay. I'll watch Wednesday night, and every time the ball goes near him, I will be somewhat worried. Whereas when Joe Rodon has it, I'm in complete confidence that he's got the situation sorted.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Well,
sorry about that.
No, it's fine. We'll be back Wednesday, won't we, Jay?
We will, mate. We will.
For a post-match, and it's that time of the season now. Just strap yourself in. We'll leave it there. We will be back on Wednesday. I want to thank everyone who's been on our Monday night show. Chris Bell, Stephen Downes, Gareth Walker, and also Lewis Sale, of course, Jayson Boocker as well. Guys, if you can smash a like on the video, that would be brilliant. If you could comment as well. We're trying to get those subscribers up as well, so please do subscribe as well. We don't monetize the channel, so there's no adverts. We're not asking for memberships or anything like that, but if you can subscribe, if you can like the video, that is really appreciated. We'll be back next week for the Monday show, but myself and Jason, well, we've just got to prepare now, because it's that time of the season again where it's to the wire, but we will be back then. Thank you very much for watching. I've been Stephen Browne, and we'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.